friends, so this is our new video lecture on the basics of statistics that are required by a data scientist. It is basically the subchapter 1.2 of our previous lecture. So in this video we will be discussing about statistical features that are required by a data scientist. So we'll be discussing about bias, mean, median, percentiles. Bias. In data science context, bias means the deviation from expectation in the data set. Basically, it is an error or noise in the data. In general, we can also call it as favoritism for a particular group. Most common types of bias in data science, selection bias. This usually happens while sampling. Like when we fetch out the data that we needed for analysis from the entire set of population, we tend to do selection bias. For example, in our Rubik's Cube example that we have already discussed in previous video, I particularly was very biased about blue tile, but is it represents the entire population? No, of course not, because the best sample would be each colored tile, because since in a population in a Rubik's Cube we have different colored tiles. So if we'll select the each colored tile with frequency 1, all those accumulated data tiles will act as a population and a sample, and it will better denotes the population. Now, what is confirmation bias? It occurs when the person performing the data analysis, basically a data scientist, if they want to prove a predetermined assumption, then they keep looking for the data until this assumption can be proven. For example, by intentionally excluding particular variables from the analysis. This often done because data analysts are briefed in advance to support a particular prediction or a particular conclusion that was already aimed, and for achieving those aim, the data scientist may mishandle the data. So this leads to confirmation bias. Now, what are outliers? Basically, it is the extremities in the data points. Either the value is too large or too low. For example, in a class of postgraduate students, we can consider a 45-year also attended, right? But basically, the student age is between 22 and 24. So the average will be biased towards the 45-year-old student for sure. So this is outlier, and being a data scientist, you must remove outliers. Now, overfitting and underfitting. Underfitting means the oversimplification of the data to fit into the real data set, and overfitting means you're on a training data set, your model performs very well, but on a testing or a real-time data, it is overly complicated. So, a data analyst or a scientist should remove this overfitting and underfitting bias. Now, what are confounding variables? This is very interesting one. This is a variable that data scientist may overlook and doesn't consider it in his analytical model. Why? But it may happen because the target variable may depend on that variable. Let us consider an example. We want to calculate the number of confirmed cases of corona. So this will be our target variable. And now we want to predict when the corona cases will be vanished from India. So our target variable in this case is corona cases, but the variable that may affect corona is temperature surrounding travel duration. So a data scientist consider all these parameters, but what if the immunity, that is the major part which which may affect our corona cases numbers, and data scientist somehow removes this immunity attribute. So in this case, immunity is the confounding variable. What are the measures of central tendency? So first one is mean, then median and mode. Mean. It is the average of all values in a sample or population. It is mathematically represented as sum of all data points divided by number of data points. In the table, you can see population mean and sample mean in terms of parameters and statistical measures. We have already denoted all the symbols in our previous lecture. So capital N represents the number of items in the population, and summation of all the data points divided upon N equals to mu. Mu stands for population mean. So what are the examples of mean? Let us consider a student database having name, roll number and marks. And so mean equals to sum of all data points divided by number of data points. Now mean equals to, we'll take the sum 23, 24, all the stuff divided by the number of data points, that is 11. So mean comes out to be 19.72. Median. Basically, mid value of sample set in case of odd number, whereas for even number of record, take the average of the two middle numbers. So this is how we calculate median. But before that, please arrange it in ascending or descending order. Example of mean. Example of median. So this is our student database having attributes name, roll number, marks. After ascending, arranging it in ascending or descending order, the marks column will become like this. So the median equals to 22. That is because there is odd number of records, that is 11 is an odd number for sure. So median comes out to be the middle point number, that is 22. And if the last record is removed, let us assume it to be a even number. So the number of records will be 10 now. So we'll take the median equals to 18 plus 20 divided by 2, because 18 and 20 are the two middle numbers. So median comes out to be 19. Mode. Basically, mode is the most frequent data point in the sampled. For example, in our marks column, 23 is the most frequent data point. So mode for this example is 23 because its frequency is 3. Now, what are the measures of spread? Range. It is the given measure of how spread apart the values in a data set are. Basically, a range that a whole spreading, like what is the minimum and in between the maximum value. Interquartile range, very important. It is the measure of variability based on dividing a data set into quartiles. We'll be discussing it. Variance, it describes how much a random variable differs from its expected value. Like we assume some value and we'll find out the variation from that expected value. Basically, it is the square of deviation. Standard deviation, it is the measure of dispersion of set data from its mean, like how your data is spread across mean, that is called standard deviation. And the square of standard deviation stands for variance. Quartile. Basically, our data set is divided into four quarters. That is first quartile, which means the lowest 25% of the numbers for the entire data set. Second quartile, the next lowest 25% of the numbers. Third quartile, the second highest 25% of the number, that is above the median. And fourth quartile is the highest 25th percentile of the number. So basically in this pie chart, we can see the line that is separating the first quarter is called quartile and the entire sector is called quarter. Percentile. 0th percentile means the smallest number in the group. 25th percentile means the end of the first quartile. 50th percentile, the end of the second quartile, basically a median. 75th percentile, the end of the third quartile. 100th percentile, the largest, highest number in the group. So basically IQR equals to 75th percentile minus 25th percentile. Sometimes we also referred it as Q3 minus Q1, that is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. And it is very amazing to know that almost 50% of our data lies in IQR and 25% lies above IQR and 25% below IQR. IQR is one of the most important techniques for a data scientist to remove outliers. Apart from it, we can also use skewness. What are the example of percentile? So if we see our marks data set, the 0th percentile will be 12. Okay, so our 0th percentile is 12, and now because it is the lowest number. Similarly, the 25th percentile equals to 0.25 into 11, so it comes out to be 2.75, and while rounding it, it becomes 3, that is index 3. We denote it as 25th percentile. Similarly, 50th percentile equals to median, that is equals to 22, because it is the most central element. And this is 75th percentile, that is 0.75 into 11 equals to 8.25, rounding off to 8. So value at index 8 is, that is 8 is at 75th percentile. And our last but not the least, 100th percentile means the highest value, that is 25. So this is percentile. So that's all for the today's video. Please do like, comment and share our video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.